One of the main reasons that I think Ready or Not is as popular as it is its unsettling realism. There's several moments all throughout the game where we're forced into a state of reflection, as the events that we witness within it aren't too far out of the realm of possibility. It seems that every other week we're hearing stories on the news about mass shootings and terrorist attacks, and there are a few times in Ready or Not where we have to respond to similar scenarios. And perhaps one of the best examples of this is in the mission Neon Tomb. Now, for those of you who even slightly follow the game, you're probably already familiar with this mission, and even I've discussed it lightly in one of my previous videos. Essentially what I said there was that Neon Tomb was loosely based upon the Pulse nightclub shooting that occurred in Orlando, Florida back in 2016. Now today, I don't aim to dissect the eerie similarities between the two, because I've already done that, but I'm instead focusing on the lore and the story about what happened here. But with that quick disclaimer out of the way, we can now fully dive into the Neon Tomb incident. At approximately 1 a.m., the emergency call center begins to get flooded with 911 calls coming from downtown Los Sueños. Several armed intruders have forced their way inside of a popular nightclub and have shot and killed the majority of the occupants who were standing in line outside. The situation inside of the club isn't currently known, but based upon one of the calls that we listened to, it's safe to assume that these men aren't interested in taking hostages.
911, this call is being recorded. What is your emergency? Hello? This is 911. What is your emergency?
Help us!
Ma'am, is everything all right? Can you tell me your name?
Oh, God. They're shooting everybody. Run! Run! Over here! Over here!
Ma'am? Are you there? Ma'am?
Oh, shit. They're coming this way. Stop! Stay away!
The Los Sueños cyber team has also confirmed that several of the attackers have been live streaming the attack online. An offshoot of a terrorist organization known as The Hand has already claimed responsibility for the attack, and based on its brutal and coordinated nature, we have no reason to believe otherwise. The terrorists have barricaded most of the outside exits and have blocked off several access points with large vehicles, meaning that it's our job and our job alone to get these victims out alive. When we arrive to the scene, we are met with a massacre. Roughly 70 people lay outside completely unresponsive. The eerie hum and chirps of cell phones create a strange melody with the blasting sirens that we hear outside, and the muffled club music coming from beyond the doors provides a stark contrast to what we're currently witnessing. Seldom do you see sound design as impactful as it is here, and to say that the atmosphere here is horrific would be a gross understatement. Take a listen. When we walk past all of the bodies and make our way inside, we can see more of the same. The hallways are caked in bullet casings and blood, and further back we find even more casualties. On the left side of the entrance, we can see a sort of admissions area with purses and suitcases. This room also happens to have a phone and a call list in it, where ominously at the bottom it says, "We know who you are." Anyways, on the phone we can listen to a voicemail from an agent representing the performer Live Rat. Presumably, Live Rat is the DJ who was performing tonight. For the moment, we can disregard all of this though, and continue on with the mission. When we continue down the hallway and up the stairs, we find ourselves in between a cocktail bar and a coat check area. Interestingly enough, the coat check actually has a piece of evidence that ties back into our last video about Cherryessa Farms, as we can see a phone number on the bulletin board eloquently labeled Big Dick Rick, which is a really stupid, dumbass thing to write down next to your phone number, but if you can remember, Big Dick Rick was also one of the names that we saw on the conspiracy board at Cherryessa. It was said there that he had been drugging women at a local nightclub, and Neon must have been that nightclub. If we look back outside, we can also see the cult's symbol graffitied onto one of the nearby walls, so I think it's safe to say that this Rick character became one of their victims. Anyways though, past this coat check room, we can find a backstage area filled with at least 15 more corpses. The emergency exit had been chained shut by the terrorists, and it would appear that they had knowingly funneled people back here before cornering them and executing them. The last thing these people seen being the name of the terrorists' leader, Kodama. Now, something worth noting here is that this door is chained from the inside, which would signify that prior to the shooting, this group utilized an inside man to seal off these doors. And as we can find later in the game, disguises aren't out of the ordinary for this particular terrorist cell. So I think it's safe to assume that's what happened here. It's clear that there isn't much that we can do right here, though. So instead, we turn our focus back to the task at hand. If we continue our way forward, we'll eventually come upon these sort of John Wick-esque pool rooms, which, regardless of what the signs may say, seem as though they were being used as some sort of sex sauna. Now, during my playthrough, this area was just crawling with enemies, and there are a lot of close quarters here, so we need to proceed carefully. We also can begin to notice that some of the remaining survivors we find have been strapped with explosive vests, and try as we might, we aren't able to remove them. All we're able to do in the moment is restrain them and keep moving forward. As we continue to work our way past these people, though, we'll begin to notice just how disorienting the layout of the nightclub really is. The hallways split off into various different rooms that all start to blend and fuse together, and the flashing lights and pounding music create an eerie sense of repetition, and after a while you start feeling like you yourself have been trapped in a maze. As we continue forward, the body count only continues to grow higher, and after a while we lose count of just how many people are unresponsive. To put it simply, the nightclub has become the scene of a slaughter, and the further we progress, the more we start to realize that we're too late. And this sentiment is only strengthened when we make our way out onto the main dance floor. Piles of people lay slain underneath of the vibrant lights, and several enemies fire at us from different positions. Now, this room is especially difficult to clear because if you enter from the bottom floor, you're being fired upon from an elevated position. To make matters worse, the terrorist attack took place during the middle of an EDM show, so while we're being shot, we're also being blinded by these continuous flashing lights. If we manage to go up to the DJ's catwalk, though, we can turn this music and lights off, creating a significantly less hectic experience. While we're up here, we can also see that DJ mentioned earlier in the phone call, Live Rat, is dead. I suppose if you wanted to, you could say that Live Rat is one dead mouse. Anyways though, now that we've cleared out the downstairs area, we can make our way up to the upper level. But on the second floor, we just find more of the same. All it is a few more VIP areas, as well as some bars and a dance floor. We can also find a security room, which shows all of the security cameras of the facility. But it would appear that the men who were watching these cams had been killed too. There's also a phone on the desk that has a voicemail that's been left on it. And when we listen to that, we find yet another tragic piece of this story.
Dad, you have to get the fuck out of there. This guy's with guns. Me and Cody, we were waiting in line. We fucking ran. We're in an alley right now. We're okay. I tried calling your cell. Fuck! Please, get out of there right now!
Eventually, though, we come across the ringleader of this entire thing, Kodama. Now, it's stated in our mission briefing that he and the rest of his men are from Yemen, and he's essentially the de facto leader of the US chapter of this terrorist organization. It's mentioned in our mission details that these men may have acted in response to a US airstrike on Yemen, and if we watch one of Void's trailers, this theory is all but confirmed. In this trailer, we watch the terrorists prior to their arrival at the scene, where one of the men says,
"Remember the ones you lost in Midi. This is for them."
So it now becomes obvious that this attack is a response to some sort of US intervention in Yemen. And as I mentioned briefly before, it shows an eerie similarity to the Pulse nightclub shooting, because that shooter's motivation was also said to be from US airstrikes. But for now, that's about it. There isn't a spooky underlying conspiracy or anything like that. This is simply a bunch of innocent lives being ruined over something that they had nothing to do with. The Hand is without a doubt one of the most brutal factions that we'll see in Ready or Not, and their willingness to take innocent lives won't stop here. But that's a chapter of the story that we'll have to examine later. Neon Tomb is a stark reminder of the horrors that can unfold within our world, and after playing some of the less damaging missions that we've grown accustomed to, it acts as a heavy gut punch for the player. Many of the other maps in Ready or Not are scary because of their reveal. You know, you clear out this entire map and you find this one horrible thing at the end that puts it all together in a fucked up little bow. But Neon Tomb is scary because of its premise. It doesn't have some spooky reveal, right? It simply displays this horrible event to you and says, here, go fix it. Sometimes you don't need a complicated backstory because the events themselves are terrifying, and anything else would be taken away from the experience at hand. And I might be wrong here. There could very easily be some elaborate link to one of the other storylines that we see in the game, but it doesn't need it. The events of Neon Tomb were one of the few times that I've had gaming where I genuinely wanted to stop playing. Not because the level was bad or difficult, but because it filled me with such unease and discomfort. I think it perfectly displays the horror of a mass shooting and the tragedies that their aftermaths leave behind. I'm really interested in hearing your all's thoughts though. How was your experience with this mission? I hope it wasn't as bothering as mine. I'd also like to take a quick moment to thank my channel members for their generous contributions and for helping me continue to make these sorts of videos, because it takes a lot of time and effort, so having that support really means so much more than you could ever know, guys. Thank you. And if you enjoyed these videos and haven't already, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button. It is a completely free way to support me and the content that I make, and it allows me to continue to make the videos you love. But anyways though, with all of that aside, thank you so much for watching today's video. You know I love you. I'm out.